4, follow traffic, clear visual approach, runway 4 right, maintain 17, John Austin, 5 mile final. 17 till 5 out.
Overcoming obstacles to find your place in our industry. From the National Business Aviation Association, this is Flight Plan. I'm Rob Finfrock. As NBAA marks Black History Month throughout February, it's an important time to engage in conversations about ensuring opportunities for anyone who wants to join our industry, and to learn more about individuals' paths to business aviation that may be quite different from your own. On that note, I'm pleased to welcome two of my guests back to Flight Plan. Tracy Carwile is Vice President of Global Sales and Inclusion at GGT Worldwide and incoming Chair of NBAA's Endeavor Group, along with Andre Watson, Director of Maintenance at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. But we'll begin with Stephanie Chung, President of Stephanie Chung and Associates and author of the book Ally Leadership: How to Lead People Who Are Not Like You, drawn from her experiences in leadership roles at Bombardier, Wheels Up, and Jet Suite.
My dad was a master sergeant in the U.S. Air Force. So I literally grew up, hearing planes take off and land my entire life because I always lived on active Air Force bases and my dad was an airman. So with that said, I had a love affair with planes, early on. The challenge that I had was as a little girl, whenever I would see aviation depicted in film or TV or magazines or anything like that, none of those pictures ever looked like me as a little young Black girl, right? So though I knew that I loved aviation and I felt like that's where I wanted to spend my career, I honestly didn't know what I could do because I'd never seen representation. I'd never seen people of color depicted as aviators in any type of media outlet. So I started my very first job. I started parking planes and loading luggage at the Boston Logan Airport for what is now American Airlines. That was my very first job. And I was one of the few women that worked on the ramp. We're talking about 40 years ago, whatever. But because I grew up around soldiers, I felt very comfortable being around primarily men. So worked on the ramp, did customer service. And then from there, one of the executives saw me, noticed me, and said that he thinks they have me in the wrong position, that I shouldn't be in operations, I should be in sales. The rest is kind of history, but one person had one conversation with me that changed the entire trajectory of my career.
Tracy, what was your entry into business aviation?
I actually started as a temporary employee while I was working at Bental Hospital and going to nursing school part-time. And one of my friends called me and said, "Hey, remember that favor you owe me?" She had been working part-time at an aviation logistics company. And of course, she got the call and she needed someone. So I took on, another job for 2 weeks, which was working as a temporary employee at a receptionist desk. And it just so happened to be the week of Hurricane Katrina. And as anyone knows, I live in Texas, and Texas and Louisiana, as well as a few other states, was hit incredibly hard. And I realized instantly just what the aviation community is about. I saw it in real time, in real action, what corporate aviation did. And again, this was my first introduction. And as the saying, and Stephanie reiterated, the rest is history, right? I actually never left. I worked at Universal Weather and Aviation for 14 years following that until COVID. And I think the most beautiful thing for me, besides seeing community and action in real time, was also the opportunity for me to be part of that instantly. And that gratification and being rewarded for what you're able to do, I find immediate reward is something that's unique to our industry, and that's something that's kept me around.
Andre, how did you start out in our industry?
I started at a tech school in northern New Jersey. What influenced my decision was actually way out of my neighborhood. Growing up in the inner city, there's a lot of things that, you could get into that's not beneficial for you for your future. And I spoke with a friend at the time who let me know that there was a program at Teterboro Airport that had a maintenance program, basically. So I went and checked it out. And when they told me that I could be employed anywhere that an airplane lands, that was my ticket out. My actual first working experience was at the local FBO while I was going to school. It was family owned at the time, and it was just a great crew. You know, we talk about culture now, and everything is aimed towards the culture and building the right team. But at that point in 2004, you know, you had a great team or you didn't. So I had a great team, and it just kind of led to me staying involved in the industry.
Can you share a personal milestone along your journey, Andre?
Just graduating from my tech school and, you know, fulfilling all the requirements to become a certified A&P. At that time, it was handing applications and, you know, knocking on doors. So I was very persistent to get one of those uniforms on the field. So that was a personal milestone, getting that first job for a well-known Part 135 charter company.
Stephanie, how about you?
The one that probably sticks out the most is the time that I was appointed the president of Jet Suite. That then made me the first African American in U.S. history to lead a major private aviation company. When the opportunity came for me, it was something I really had to think about. I had a fear of doing it because up until that point, I had always oversaw sales teams, right? So I was very good with sales teams, marketing teams, customer experience, like that kind of thing, customer facing. What I had not ever done was lead, pilots or HR or finance or IT or the legal team. So that was something that was, I was really thinking through like, can I do this? Because I thought I only had a particular skill set with, customer facing roles and not necessarily all the other things that you take under your belt once you become, head of a company. They offered me the position to be the president. And that gave me the ability to get my foot back in aviation, which I really had missed at that point. But I will tell you, I was nervous to do it because it was going to really stretch my capabilities. And I was willing to take on the challenge.
Tracy?
One thing that stands out particular is 2008. And if you were in the industry during that time, we probably all just collectively gasped inside when I said that, right? But we did all make it through. But during that time frame, I was still, pretty new to the role, and I was growing within. After switching from nursing to business and switching colleges and majors and going to school and learning a new role at the same time and kind of figuring out what that means for me. And sales and customer service was something that was very comfortable to me at the time, and I was excelling, so it was fun. And then, 2008 hit, right? So the organization had to make some tough choices and, came to me and offered me either a new role, which was more like an analyst role with numbers and the security sector, or because of, the economic situation, where my current role was being eliminated. I was at a pivotal place, and I think earlier that day had read the quote, if you're offered a seat on a rocket ship, don't ask what seat, you just take it, right? So I chose, after some conversations with my family, I chose to take the role, and someone who was really scared about it because it was initially an analyst role. Once I got in there and I knew the organization was flexible and definitely gave resources, which is something that I never took for granted, and professional development opportunities. So there was support in the role, which is something that I was very, very happy to see. But I decided to stay. And, 19 years later, I am absolutely a security professional, and that changed the trajectory of my aviation expertise as well as my niche in the industry, and has offered me a lot of runway to impact the industry in a lot of different ways.
I loved what Tracy said, and I almost want her to repeat it for the people in the back, right? Which is in our industry, it will have ebb and flows and ups and downs. When there's a hit to the economy, we definitely feel it. It's really important to know in this industry, if you're going to be in it for a long time, you will probably take a hit somewhere along the line. And at that point is when you have to make a pivotal, gut-wrenching, feel the fear and do it anyway, which is what Tracy did. You're going to have to make those moments.
I think with our industry, as Stephanie said, those ebb and flows, those challenges. I think what's also important that I learned early on in that situation is we are unique in our industry because a lot of us love and have that passion for aviation, for flight, for independence, for exploration for a lot of reasons. And we just so happen to also be able to find jobs that align with a lot of that spark, right? But what also tends to happen is our individual identities get mixed up in our professional role. So I learned early on when that situation happened. It was, of course, challenging, but you also learn that we are in a business, which means a business has to make, if we're not working for ourselves, a business really does have to make a lot of tough decisions. And unfortunately, you as a person might be affected by that. So, me as a person also needs to have my own identity, even if it is within my love and passion for aviation that's outside of my actual work job title. And as you're young and growing your profession and you're becoming an adult, it becomes harder and harder to meet people and to have friends. So naturally, your circle becomes just who you work with. But I think one of the challenges that I encountered in that situation that was magnified was that we really do have to own our own identity and continue to work alongside that as you're developing and growing in your career. So that's something that luckily I had that was mirrored. So along the way in aviation, and because we are aspirational, I have found other things that have filled me with joy that has kept me and my footprint in aviation that's not necessarily just my job duties.
Andre, what are some of the challenges you've encountered in business aviation?
There's a specific form of in-group kind of favoritism, like you're in the club or you're not. And the way I found to overcome those obstacles is just, keep being persistent and just be my genuine self. I have a way of saying you're going to like me, whether you like it or not. But it's just being persistent and overcoming those obstacles and just finding a way to stand out rather than just always trying to fit in.
That's a great point. We're an industry that's built on relationships, which is usually a really great thing. But it can be tough when you're still developing that peer network and maybe feeling like you're on the outside looking in.
I'm normally a bit more reserved, so that came along with actually stepping out of my comfort zone to be able to, just put yourself out there. If you know you won't fit in the group or, mesh well with the team, just kind of, like I said, just be your genuine self, and just go out there and find something in common with those folks, whether it's your experience, whether it's activities outside the job, just finding a way anyway to be able to break down those walls. And I would also say just keep investing in yourself and just being the best at what you do, but constant growth will have you stand out, and eventually, you'll have to be noticed. They won't be able to ignore you.
I was sitting there listening to Andre, and I felt like he was taking us a little bit deeper, which I love, right? And we have to not be afraid of those conversations. Sometimes you got to motivate yourself, right? And then also dig deep, because there are people in oppositions that absolutely are questioning, should you be there? And so sometimes you got to dig your calf muscles in, right? Because I didn't just get it because I just got it. I got it because I worked my butt off and I deserved it, right? And so with that, there was a lot of pressure to try to make everything work, because I didn't want to disappoint women. I didn't want to disappoint people of color. I didn't want to disappoint my company, my board. There was a lot of pressure going on to make sure that, we were able to do this. Now, what I will say with that is there were a lot of, I had a lot of allies, if you will, cheering me on behind the scenes, because there aren't a lot of people that are like Tracy and Andre and myself. Right now there is. And because we're, the industry's working hard, we're all working hard. And there's a lot of other people who are working countless hours trying to make this industry a lot more diverse. And we still have a very long way to go. Right? So let me just say that. Now, that said, one of the things that I think that we could do as an industry is, we have to make sure that we're doing a lot so that people feel like they belong.
That's especially important, I think, as we're seeing many entities in our current political environment pulling back from diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. We're making great progress in DEI across business aviation, so hopefully we can keep that momentum going.
I will add, Rob, to your point, the hopeful thing is that NBAA's commitment has not changed. And I think what we're going to be able to see right now is the opportunity, right? So the opportunity for certain businesses to step up for that individuality of companies, organizations, and people. It offers an opportunity for us all to do better and be better. I think to your point, Rob. Additionally to that, NBAA's Endeavor Group has a place in the industry for people to even have just tough conversations and communicate with each other. And sometimes when there is no space for that, that's when a lot of these challenges occur. It's really about everyone having a place in our industry. We just have to work hard together to find it. So I would love for anyone that has any interest to join us and join the MBA group. We are very welcoming and open and have great conversations. We're putting education out there and interviews and just having a space for people to learn, but also discuss some of those challenges that are hard. We need that, and our industry needs that. So I'm excited to see that NBAA is continuing to support the Endeavor Group. And 2025, I think we'll have that opportunity, for impact if we all work together.
Thank you all for sharing your experiences today. So, Andre, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your younger self or to someone just now starting out in business aviation?
Don't be afraid to grow. And what I mean by that is, you have to step out your comfort zone. You have to embrace those challenges, work on new skills, knowledge. You can't just stay in the same place and flourish. And if you have to go, you might have to flourish somewhere else. Go where you're celebrated, go where people recognize your talents and skills. Don't just stay stagnant in the same place, trying to break into groups that you're probably never going to get into. I would also say find a mentor. That will help you gain that confidence. They've been through some of those same challenges that you'll face along the way throughout your career. So I would say find a mentor that's honest, that's tough, and well respected in the industry. That'll help you understand how you can maneuver around some of the obstacles, because obviously they probably faced them, at some point during their career, and it'll help you with, the heartache of trying to overcome those obstacles.
Andre mentioned in-group and out-group, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. So our brain, whenever it sees someone, whether it's in a picture, face-to-face, whatever, our brain is designed to protect us, right? So the brain will automatically put people in either an in-group, meaning you're like me, or an out-group, you're not like me. Now it's a natural instinct that we will not change, okay? It saved us back in the days when, lions were chasing us, right? But it's not really helpful now. The way that you override your brain's natural default system is by making the unfamiliar familiar. And the way that you do that is by opening up your in-group. And so what I would say, I love the fact that Andre said, hey, a suggestion would be find a mentor. I also want to flip that and say my challenge to the industry is to actually open up your in-group. So yes, everybody should find mentors, but I also want all of us as an industry to simply do better, right? We can make the unfamiliar familiar, and we do that by taking time, getting to know somebody that doesn't look like you, think like you, act like you.
Excellent insights. Thank you, Stephanie. What would you tell your younger self?
Have fun. This is a great journey. And just remember, be open to different things. If there's somebody that you respect them, you trust them, and they make a comment, take it to heart, because they may see something in you that you're not quite ready to see at this stage of the game, but it actually could help you further down the line.
Tracy, what advice would you share?
Celebrate your small wins more, right? Whenever you're getting out and you're grinding, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel sometimes. My favorite quote is to be stubborn with the goal, but flexible with the journey. And a lot of times when your head's down and you're on that journey and you're really just trying to reach that goal, you don't celebrate yourself enough. And I would say definitely do that. One of the most important things I would say for those in the industry, it completely goes with what Stephanie and Andre have mentioned, is finding your people. And if you don't have the luxury of your people, meaning your support system or a support system being inside your organization, then it's on you to find what that support system is like for you outside of that, whether it's to help you grow professionally, whether it's a mentor, whether it's an organization. I think it's important to take advantage of the resources your organizations offer. Those are the places where I have met the most unique people, and my network has widened because I've been open to staying in contact and working hard at those relationships when those situations arise, and being active and having action really is what's going to make a difference. So I also think that any of us three, Andre, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but Stephanie and myself have all been there and we've shared that. So finding people that are willing to, give you some advice or just have a conversation with you is really important too.
As Tracy mentioned, one of the ways to engage in those conversations and to demonstrate allyship is by joining NBAA's Endeavor Group that aims to advocate, educate, and collaborate in building and nurturing an inclusive business aviation community. You can learn more by visiting nbaa.org/Endeavor. And that's the latest from the National Business Aviation Association. Remember, you can subscribe to Flight Plan wherever you find your favorite podcasts, or by downloading episodes directly from nbaa.org. I'm Rob Finfrock. Thanks for listening, and join us next time for a new episode of Flight Plan.
Right base, sending out 3500.
We got him inside. We're still on effect 170, coming 5.